welcome in. Now, before we get to Schlereth Slants, I want to talk a little bit about Monday Night Football and what we saw on Monday Night Football. And I think, obviously, it was fairly shocking. And it was one of those situations where I don't think anybody's truly prepared as you watch that unfold to kind of come to the realization that somebody is, fighting for their life on a football field. And ultimately, I thought the NFL and I thought the Bills and I thought the Bengals did a phenomenal job of handling a situation that, quite frankly, is incomprehensible. And I like a couple of things that really struck me about that moment. I think one is that we as football players understand what we're doing. We understand that there's 100% probability that you're going to get hurt. And we also understand that you can put yourself in some life-threatening situations. And even though we understand those facts, we still go out there and play the game that we love. I'll quote a song or quote a line from one of my favorite bands in the 80s, The Alarm. I don't know if you guys remember The Alarm, but they had a line in one of their songs that always resonated for me. And it was, the lifeblood that courses through my veins. And that's what football has been for all of us who have played this game, all of us who fell in love with this game at a very young age. It becomes the lifeblood that courses through our veins. And so we all willingly accept the dangers that come along with playing this game. And you look at Damar Hamlin's injury and what he was doing, just understand that he worked his entire life for that moment. And there's no place that he would have rather been than playing in that game at that moment. All right, back to Schlereth Slants now, and let's move on to the most disappointing team in the AFC. And I think when you look at the teams that did make the playoffs, the Jets, you look at the Browns, the Colts, the Texans, the Raiders, and the Broncos. And I think to myself, well, who had the highest expectations? And the highest expectations were probably the Raiders and the Broncos. And think about this. We went into the AFC West, this year thinking this is the best quarterback division that's ever been assembled anywhere. I'm going to point toward my Denver Broncos and what they did this offseason. All the draft capital they spent to go out and get Russell Wilson, and then to have that become such a dramatic flop, to win 4 games going into the last game of the season, to have a guy that was a perennial Pro Bowler, 9-time Pro Bowler, a guy that just exudes confidence, a guy that has always played at a very high level, a guy that was considered the best deep ball thrower in football, a guy that was considered a certain Hall of Famer, first ballot maybe, that went from being a all-pro quarterback to a guy that looked like he can't play anymore. And I don't think that's the case. I think truly the case is that Russell Wilson, decided to overstep his bounds and is playing in an offense that he can't actually orchestrate. And so, the bottom line is they've got to get back to basics, get back to kind of what Seattle did, run the ball, control line of scrimmage, open up your play action game, whether it's a play pass game, whether it's a play action, run action game, the boot keep game, the throwback game, do the things that Russell Wilson has always done and done exceptionally well, instead of being a spread offense where Russell Wilson's going to operate from shotgun the entirety of the game and try to pick you apart. It's not what he does well. And so I think you learned a very valuable lesson. Do I think he's salvageable? Yes. Do I think he could still play at a very high level? Yes. I think he proved some of that over the last couple of weeks when they simpled down that offense. And last week, had him running the ball on quarterback draws and things of that nature. But I think there is no question to me that Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos probably the biggest disappointments this year, so much so that they had to fire their coach. So I think that one wins hands down. But I'm going to focus on the positive, and that's Chicago Bears. 3-win Chicago Bears. I did a game probably mid-season, maybe week 11 or so, and I got to tell you, the positive energy that comes out of Chicago, the positive energy within their facility, the positive energy within their coaching staff was special. They have found their quarterback of the future. They have developed an offense around that quarterback that accentuates his strengths and minimizes his weaknesses. He is continuing to grow in that offense and become a better passer and a guy that has a better understanding of the passing game. I just feel like the Chicago Bears, they've got a ton of cap space. They could spend a ton of money in free agency I really feel like the Chicago Bears, even though they've had a losing season, they're not a disappointment. All right, time for Schlereth Slants on the AFC playoffs, and let's focus on the teams that are fighting for a wild card berth, okay? So you've got the Dolphins, the Steelers, and the Patriots. Now, if the Dolphins beat the Jets and the Patriots lose to the Bills, the Dolphins are in the playoffs. So if the Steelers win versus the Browns and the Dolphins lose and the Patriots win, then the Steelers make the playoffs. And then finally, the Patriots, if they beat the Bills, they go to the playoffs. So the Patriots have the easiest path because it's just win and you're in for the Pats. Bills coming off that Monday night game that was postponed. I don't think they'll ever make that game up. I just think that's going to go away. And they're going to do it on percentages for the, who wins the number one seed in the AFC. I think that's the way it's going to go. But that's just my opinion. I don't know any, I don't have any facts on that. But I think the Bills will show up. I think they'll play this game well. I think they've got stuff to play for, and I think they're going to play for Damar Hamlin as well. So I think the Bills are going to win that game against the Patriots. So I feel like the Bills have got that victory. I think the Dolphins are reeling. I don't even know who's going to play quarterback right now. I think the Dolphins lose to the Jets. That's just my gut. And I think the Steelers actually win versus the Browns. So believe it or not, Mike Tomlin coaches his team back into the playoffs. That's going to be my prediction right there. So they win, the Dolphins lose, the Patriots lose, and the Steelers find their way into the playoffs, which would be amazing if you look back to the beginning of the season when Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record. And all of a sudden his team has fought back here late in the season and found a way to be a playoff contender. This weekend for me, as I wrap it up, I head to Atlanta for Tampa and Atlanta. And you know what's crazy is Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like they have been stumbling around on offense, kind of like when they jumped off those boats in the Super Bowl parade, right? They're stumbling around like all season on the offensive side of the ball, and they tied it together last week. You want to talk about big plays over the top to Mike Evans, 3 touchdowns, over 200 yards receiving. They really put it together on the offensive side of the ball, and Tom Brady is still playing so efficiently and such a high level that they've accomplished all their goals. Listen, I don't know if they're going to play their guys this weekend or not in Atlanta. They may not. They may play them for a quarter. They may treat it like a preseason game. And I think it's important to keep some offensive continuity and some offensive flow together. But the bottom line is they're going to be a tough out. And remember, if you go back to their Super Bowl run in 2020, they were at I don't even remember what their record was, 8-5, 8-6, something like that. And then they went on a run and never lost another game all the way to a world championship. Don't let Tom Brady and this offense get on a run, because if they start producing on the offensive side of the ball, they're still really talented defensively. It's just that they have had to be on the field way too much, that complementary nature of football. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I don't know, man. They're like the Packers to me. They're a team that I'd just as soon not face come playoff time. So anyhow, that does it for me, man. Enjoy. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the weekend of football, and that'll do it for Schlereth Slants. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out our other videos, and don't forget to smack that subscribe button down below while you're at it. Also, for more great and original content, head right over to bvmsports.com.